So LinkedIn is an enabler for our business. It's also a competitor. It's kind of both.
You know, I've spoken to a number of candidates who have applied for roles on LinkedIn that they wouldn't have understood weren't correct for them because the job description is generic or it doesn't give that much detail. They've applied for it and maybe they've been a senior manager and this role sounded glamorous, but it was looking for a senior accountant, so it's miles away from where they are.
Jersey's finance sector is booming, right? I mean, Jersey finance is definitely open for business, and quite simply, the number of vacancies outstrips the number of qualified people to fill those vacancies, which means that in the segments that we work in, it's very much an employee-led sector.
We're all trying to achieve the same thing. The candidate wants a role, client wants the role filled, and we want to help them facilitate that process.
Yeah.
So if we all work together, it makes it so much easier.
I think it was only when we were actually preparing for this podcast, because we spend so much time, you know, it's almost like, you know, the mouse and the mouse wheel, you know, running, it's very frenetic, it's fast paced. I think it's only when we started to look at the content for today, we actually looked at each other and almost gave each other a little bit of a pat on the back. It was like,
how much we've achieved.
Crikey, we've done a lot in 3 years. You know, we should be quite proud. You know, we haven't always got it right. God, we've made a few mistakes, that's for sure. But actually, we're doing okay. Good morning and hello to Excel Recruitment's inaugural podcast. We hope you enjoy it. If you do and the feedback is good, then we'll be looking to do more in the future. Today is the inaugural, as I just mentioned, and what we're trying to achieve today is to give some insights into the Jersey recruitment industry, to give some insights into us as individuals and business owners, to explain what Recruitment Redefined means, which is our kind of newly refreshed strapline, and hopefully to kind of give you some humour and something to enjoy. My name's Ben. I'm a co-owner and director of Excel Recruitment. Outside of recruitment, I enjoy travelling. I'm very much into my house music. I've got a beautiful wife and a lovely little dog called Marley, not named after the film, but actually after the reggae expert and reggae specialist, Bob Marley. And I'm also a Tottenham fan. And I'll introduce you to my business partner, Jamie.
I am Jamie, co-owner of Ben. We bought the business a couple of years ago together, but we've been long-term friends. My background is I've been in the industry for 25 years. I'm an accountant and transferred into recruitment to pass on our expertise. Outside of work, I coach football. I've got 2 children, a dog as well, and you'll guess it, I'm an Arsenal fan. So
how can we be business partners and friends? I also didn't mention, prior to recruitment, my background is really in business development, marketing and strategy. I've been involved in corporate rebrands, managing sales and marketing teams across multiple jurisdictions before taking the plunge into recruitment with my lifelong friend.
So Ben, having been with Excel for probably double the amount of time I have, you're probably best placed to give a bit of history about Excel and what it's about and where it's been and where it's come from.
Yeah, sure. So Excel, I knew Excel as a candidate. I used to go and see Excel when they were helping me find a job, so I already knew the company. And in fact, I was actually going to Excel to find a new job when my contract had expired. And that's when Katie Faulkner, the founder of Excel, actually positioned the opportunity to go and work with her, with the opportunity and the carrot that perhaps she was looking to retire in the near future. And there could be the opportunity to acquire the business. So Excel itself was one of the first recruitment consultants in Jersey. I think it was probably the second or the third. Katie founded the business from scratch in 1994, so we're coming up to our 30th birthday later this year. It's very exciting. And we specialise in financial services recruitment in Jersey, predominantly across the funds industry, trust, accounting services, compliance and risk, and all the support services that kind of support that infrastructure and that industry. We're a small team, but we're growing. So obviously Jamie and I are co-owners. We're also act as recruiters and business owners. We've recently taken on a new recruitment manager, a chap called Stuart Wilden, who's brilliant. He's been a real breath of fresh air, adds a lot of value to our organisation. And our operations manager, Della, who's equally brilliant, has been with the company for about 15 years.
Okay, so what's your background and what did you bring to Excel when you joined 5-6 years ago, was it?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've always been involved in sales and business development, and being a local person, having gone to school in the island, I've got a relatively good network of people. I'd like to think that the majority of them think I'm an okay guy. I was able to bring a book of candidates with me from day one. Having been a candidate myself, I've had good and bad experiences, so I was able to draw from those, hopefully demonstrate that when I'm working with clients and candidates. So how about yourself?
I suppose, well, I've been in the industry for 25 years. Me and Ben have known each other since we were 7.
Yeah, it's a long time.
37 years now. And obviously, Ben and I mixed socially anyway. But Excel, with the proximity to my company, me and Ben and I used to meet for lunch a lot before I came into Excel. I was never a candidate at Ben's.
I tried very hard.
But actually, I was in a good place with my role. I had a great job. So we used to meet regularly, and then Ben used to discuss taking over Excel, and as a friend and a confidant. And then one day, I said to Ben, "Do you need a partner, by any chance?" And I think we'd been talking loosely for about a year, and that's kind of how the acquisition came about. I think it moved fairly quickly from there. It was a high-risk gamble for me because I was quite successful in the industry, but it seemed like a calculated risk and something that was quite exciting.
The opportunity to work with a friend that you've known for a long time, and there's a bit of a myth that you shouldn't really go into business with friends or family, but I would totally counter that. I think the fact that Jamie and I are very good lifelong friends, we trust each other. He was an usher at my wedding. We've known each other for a long, long time, so we have the same values, and we basically win and lose together. What are the things that you think we've learned? What are the things that we enjoy? What are the frustrations? What are the things that as business owners keep us up at night?
Well, coming from running an accounts and an ops team into recruitment was a culture shock. I had to get my head around a totally new way of working, dealing with HR teams, how different companies like to operate, and all of those fun stuff. Also coming from a regular salary to earning our own salary. And I suppose the initial thing was panicking if you have a bad week, a bad day.
Yeah.
And one thing I've slowly learned how to do is not to panic. It's bigger picture. It's about a journey. It's almost not focusing on the result, I suppose, is a key thing now, and over the time I've read books and taken snippets from great leaders and football coaches and all these sorts of things.
Yes.
And one thing I've come to the conclusion of, looking at the result doesn't do me any favours, because actually, if you're not getting the journey right, the result won't happen anyway. So focusing on the journey, don't panic under pressure. If you have a bad day, we just roll our sleeves up and go again tomorrow. If a candidate pulls out, because it's so quick. It's such a fast-paced environment, recruitment.
And I think you picked up on something there in terms of don't panic, because I am prone to panic sometimes, and it's good to have you as a sounding board to kind of say, take it easy. And I think that really draws an important point, which is when I was given the opportunity to acquire Excel, there was an opportunity for me to do it by myself. And when I reflect back on those last 3 years, I'm so pleased that I decided to have a partner like you. You bring a huge amount of skills and experience to the team that I don't have, and I think we complement each other. Even if it's just therapy, don't panic. It's good to have that sounding board, and I think it's really, really important that it was one of the best decisions that I've probably ever made in my life, was to go into it with you rather than trying to do it by myself. Because whilst we are a small company, there is still a lot to do. We have a huge portfolio of clients to look after. We have circa 200 vacancies to manage, and we have goodness knows how many candidates that we're looking after. And that's just your day job. And then you've got to worry about the finances, the operations, the HR element of things, because we are a team, we do look after each other. So to have an ally that I trust like you has been a brilliant, brilliant move, and I'm very proud of that decision.
Well, I speak to other business owners actually, and they're quite jealous that we've got a shared ownership, because they don't have that sounding board at night when it's been a bad day at 5 o'clock, when you ring each other and say, "Oh my God, what just happened today?" And then either, we just balance each other off, which is quite nice, because fortunately it doesn't happen often where we both have terrible days. So there's already one that can pick the other one up and say, right, let's wrap it up for this evening, start again tomorrow, and roll the sleeves up and go for it.
Yeah, and I think also, whilst Excel kind of luckily fell upon our lap through Katie effectively, when we did our due diligence, and we were quite thorough, Excel was a very well-run business, and a lot of credit goes to Katie and Della for doing that.
Absolutely.
Very, very well-run ship. Had a very good reputation in the market. So we were buying a brand and a reputation, but also a business that was working properly. We have fine-tuned it, and we'll get to that subsequently in the podcast today. But we were buying a machine that already worked.
Yeah, and we had some different ideas on how things could be made slicker, improved. That's what I do. I'm operations. I look at things and try and make them better, hopefully. So, or operate more efficiently, and understanding it from a candidate's and a hiring manager's perspective, coming in and offering that to the business, I think has been beneficial, which is exciting.
It is exciting. And I think, going back to the don't panic when things aren't going right. There are things outside of our control that we can't influence. Sometimes dreadful things can happen. So we could have a candidate that's been successful in getting a job, and then there might be some adverse health reaction to that person. So there are things outside of our control, and I think we just sometimes have to accept that. Don't panic. Trust in the process. Believe in the journey that we're taking.
I think because of how we both are, we do take things to heart because we care. And I think that's one of the most challenging things about recruitment. And I suppose other recruiters will probably tell you the same as well, that actually you're really invested in these people. Their lives, their emotional lives, their children. You hear about their families, their parents, their everything. And, if something goes wrong for them in their lives, it kind of, you feel really, really sorry for them. And, you try and help the best you can. And and I think that's a really tough thing in the industry, that although I've managed teams, you're kind of managing lives now in many ways, and trying to do the best for those people.
And I'd say that I'd like to think the majority of our clients, who are the hiring organisations and the individuals that we deal with in those entities, and also our candidates, I'd like to think largely that they become friends. Certainly more than just an acquaintance.
Oh, definitely.
Which is really nice.
That's the rewarding bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you place someone and they've come out of a job that they dreaded going into every morning, or they were underpaid, or their manager was a so-and-so, so I won't swear. But it can be all sorts. And, the other thing I've learned is very few people leave roles for money. They leave it for their manager not being great, the direction of their career is not in the right place, the turnover, the work-life balance, all of these things that go about it. So actually, that's a really rewarding thing when you can put someone in a job where the work-life balance is nice, the manager's nice, the social culture, the culture of the company, all of those good things about. And when you bump into someone in the street, and obviously we do in Jersey, we do bump into them all the time, and they say, "Oh, I'm so happy." That's the rewarding bit for me, anyway.
I mean, I quite like the fact that we've got a shelf of wine and chocolates and presents and gifts that candidates have brought in once we've helped them, just to say thank you. And it's a nice touch, and it leaves a nice fuzzy warm feeling in your stomach knowing that you really helped that person get out of a situation they were no longer happy in and put them in a much better position. So I think that's why we do it, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I think another challenge that I find, and possibly you do, and maybe this will become less so as we scale up, which is the plan, is the balance between being a fee earner, e.g. a recruitment consultant, which we both do. We both have to kind of contribute towards the bottom line, and then trying to separate yourself and become a business owner. I think you're better at doing that than I am. I think, you manage your diary, so Monday morning is normally your business hats for the first 3 or 4 hours to look at the finances and everything else. And I need to kind of learn from you a bit, I think, in kind of hindsight. But that is a challenge, trying to kind of switch from being a business owner and looking at kind of strategic, operational, financial matters versus just trying to make sales and trying to hit those targets.
No, that is challenging. Dennis says to me all the time, when are you working in the business, or when are you working on the business? And as you say, when we scale up, that will become easier because we're doing both, essentially, all day, every day. And it's kind of, you might speak to your marketing company, you might speak to the guys running this podcast, you might speak to the bank, you might speak to, all sorts of different things. But then the next email or the next phone call is a client saying, I need a fund accountant, or a fund accountant saying, I need a job because I'm so unhappy. And it is kind of muddled sometimes, but I seem to have found the balance with taking my business day, and then the rest I can just absolutely focus on the candidates.
And that's why I was right to decide to bring you on board. I think the other thing I think is quite interesting is the level of resilience we need in this job. So in my previous careers, I've been pretty senior as of you. I mean, you were managing a team of 20 accountants at one point. I've managed big teams, done all sorts of kind of senior strategic things.
It was 12.
It was 12.
It was, yeah.
But this is definitely the hardest job I've ever done, I think, from a kind of emotional point of view. So don't go into recruitment if you don't have a degree of resilience, because you're going to get pushed, and you do have to roll with the punches.
No, on the briefing calls, I hear other recruiters say that as well. So it isn't just isolated to us. I think we're emotionally invested in helping our candidates and our clients, and it is all about trying to help them. And friends of mine come to me, and that is where it becomes really emotional, because I know their children, I know their husbands, I know their wives.
I think another thing that we've learned, and I'm quite proud of this, is we were newbie business owners, and so we've never been too arrogant not to engage with other parties in order to learn and to develop. So last year we took the plunge and spent a not insignificant sum of money engaging with third-party consultants. And that was brilliant. It reaffirmed a lot of things that we thought we knew, but it also showed us a pathway to doing things differently and to take a step back and have a look at things from a different perspective. And I think that was money really well spent.
There was a couple of light bulb moments. I mean, as you say, during 6 months we worked with them, there was quite a bit of, you should be doing this. And we said, yes, we are doing that. And that's testament to Katie and Della, and what we'd done in the early days as well, that we were doing some things, or quite a lot of things right, actually. But there was that 20 or 30% light bulb moment. Yeah. Wow. It was so simple. Some of the things they advised us on were so straightforward and actually very structured in how they're done. But
we've never actually done an exercise to kind of quantify the return on investment, but I think it's paid itself off multiple times already.
Yeah.
And put us in good stead.
Absolutely.
And also having the benefit of Katie. So whilst Katie is no longer the owner of the business, having managed it for many more than 2 decades, she's still invested emotionally in the business. It is very much her baby in a way, and so she is someone that will always pick up the telephone and provide some sort of mentoring or coaching, or just a sounding board. And so I think it's really good to have individuals like that can actually help us and coach us, and who've been there before. Yes, I think we'd be really lucky to have that as well. And having Della, the continuity of Della.
Well, a few times there's been some challenging situations that could potentially be controversial, and you're kind of leading towards a decision, and Katie happens to have popped in the office to meet Della for coffee, because they meet quite regularly. And I've sort of just said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And Katie's like, absolutely. Or, no, why don't you just tweet? And then, 30 years in the industry can't be sniffed at. So, it has been beneficial. And that's the nice thing about Excel, is it is a family. Katie still, I think, has a mug in the cupboard, probably.
She does, yeah.
And, we've got a 30th anniversary coming up in November, where we're all going out to dinner, and Katie and her husband are coming along to that. So, it is still tight-knit, still we work closely together.
Absolutely. I think another thing that we've learned is focusing on our core proposition. So when we took over the business, we were probably trying to target multiple different types of candidate, multiple different types of employer segment. And it was just too much. So therefore, our proposition is very much looking at the segments of in-Jersey finance, which is funds, trusts, compliance and risk, all the operational bits that work around those areas. we're not legal experts, so why should we try and pretend to be legal recruitment experts? It's just not our game. And so by getting rid of some of that noise, it's enabled us to focus on our proposition and hopefully be one of the best in class in that area.
Well, I remember when we decided on that move.
Scary.
That was a scary day because we almost wrote off a third of our jobs because Excel traditionally had helped everyone, lots of different industries, lots of different, commercial sectors outside the finance industry. And that's not what we do.
Jewelers,
yeah. And
FOMO, isn't it? FOMO.
Terrible FOMO. It was kind of like we were taking a third of jobs off our books the day we said, do you know what, let's focus on what we do. Because, having been in trust, funds and corporate for my whole career and same with you, then we weren't offering our candidates the expertise, we weren't offering our clients the expertise. And that's where it was quite a brave move. And I've spoken to a couple of people about this and they said that was a brave move, but wow.
Yeah.
And it really focused our attention on what we do.
Yeah.
And actually increased our output. I would say efficiency to clients, efficiency to candidates went straight up the day we did that.
And I think it's not an exaggeration to say that we are subject matter experts in those areas. And by reducing the number of areas, it enables us to become that effectively. I think another few things that I've learned since buying the business, always wanted to buy a business, ever since I was a little boy. Some people wanted to be an astronaut, some people want to be a racing car driver or a music star or a football player. Weirdly, perhaps because I'm a bit of a geek, I always wanted to own a business. The reality is it's a lot harder than what I realised. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is the accountability we have, right? So it's not just going to work, getting your salary and going home. We've got a team of people that we need to look after as well. And I don't just mean that from a financial perspective, but actually we need to create an environment where they feel happy, where their well-being is, important. And, it's having that, we're both parents, right? But it's having that accountability for your staff, which is, it's different than just being a line manager in an employer. Actually, when it's your company that employs them, that adds pressure. And that's probably one of the things that sometimes keeps me up at night a little bit, in terms of making sure we don't let them down. It's not so much letting yourself down, it's actually we can't let them down either. And that's where the don't panic, trust the process, believe in the journey. You just got to keep on repeating that to yourself. Repeat.
Well, all those normal things, cash flow, have we got enough to pay the salaries? Absolutely we have. And it's always making sure that, those are the critical things. The rent, the salaries, the operational staff, is the CRM system working? Is the website actually working? And people are going to it, or are the jobs in the right place, and all those sorts of things. And I think that's what we talk about working on the business or in the business.
It's very hard to switch off as well, isn't it? I mean, I think you and I have always had high work ethics, strong work ethics. It's just the way that we are. But that gets amplified when it's your business. And you've, again, given me some good guidance in terms of the importance of taking holidays, the importance of switching off. So I've just come back from Thailand, and it's the first time I've ever gone on holiday and not looked at my emails. I followed your instruction. I actually deleted the app on my phone, and I just cut myself off. And whilst it was really, really hard, the first few days was really, I did cheat actually at Heathrow Airport when Veronica went to the bathroom. I quickly looked at my emails and then got a little voice inside my head said, "Don't do this."
That would have been my voice.
And I followed your advice. And do you know what? After 3 or 4 days, I just switched off. And I think you can see, since I've come back from holiday, I'm re-energized. I'm ready to go again. So it was a really good piece of advice you gave, but it's very hard.
It is really hard. And we've, we'll talk about the changes and what we're doing at Excel a bit later on, but it's something that is a company policy. If someone checks their emails on holiday, they will be getting a strongly worded email saying, "Don't check your emails, and why are you reading this one?" So we respect work-life balance, and people need time with their families, people need time off. It's something, I know I told you about it, but it's the first year and a half, I didn't live by that rule either. And actually, it was becoming too much at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, responding to candidates, actually, and there was a few things that showed me that wasn't the correct way to operate, because I would be responding to candidates at 10 o'clock at night and saying to them, thinking they needed a response straight away, and then they wouldn't respond to me for 48 hours anyway. And I thought, the only person that has been hindered by this process is me. I haven't helped anyone by doing that. And actually, I'm turning up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, absolutely exhausted, because I'm thinking, did I type the email correctly? Did I do that? And actually, so from my personal point of view, I've got 2 young kids, and they're everything to me. And if I'm not present, then there's no point in this job, or this company.
So it's almost 3 years now since we bought the Excel business. 3 years into our initial 5-year business plan. What changes have we made?
I suppose we've worked really closely together on everything we've done, but I suppose from my operations background, this is something that I really, really wanted to do with Excel, is put our own stamp on it. It's a fantastic business, but we did need to put our own stamp on it. There was areas of the business that we felt we could improve. I suppose the first thing we walked in is I assessed the numbers and looked at the KPI stats and all the fun stuff that goes with recruitment, how many CVs you've got out, how many jobs you've got in your books, how many candidates you've seen, all of that. And I noticed that actually the KPI stats were quite high, was one thing. And I understand why they were high, because you're challenging people to hit those KPI stats, because in many ways it can be a numbers game. If you get 60 CVs out, you are going to get those placements. But for 5 years, it didn't seem like we'd hit the KPI stats. The other thing that sort of we looked at was the commission model and staff earning commission. And I just felt the KPIs in the commission model, or we felt the KPIs in the commission model drove bad behaviour. I've been that hiring manager where I'm getting 10 CVs for an accountant, and 7 of them have never prepared a set of accounts before, that sort of thing.
We're really passionate about that, aren't we? I mean, one of our kind of internal mottos is we don't send crap CVs.
We do our best not to.
If that means you're not going to hit your KPI for the month, then so be it. But we're not going to just flood the market with irrelevant CVs that are inappropriate just for the sake of hitting that number. And that was a bit of a cultural change, because it felt that if you're missing those KPIs, it's a bad thing. But we'd rather protect our reputation. And I think feedback from our clients has been, we very rarely receive if ever, receive a poor CV from Excel. The candidate might not be successful, but we can see why you sent the CV. It makes sense.
Yeah, we went back to the KPIs, didn't we? And we said, actually, we want to use KPIs as a business indicator, a performance indicator. If we are sending out 1 CV a month, that's kind of an indication that
something's wrong.
Something's horribly wrong. But that's actually what we want them to be, rather than a stick to beat our consultants with, or ourselves with as well. If you send out 17 CVs, we know there's 17 are going to be good ones. It's not about hitting 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 CVs a month. We do know there's other our competitors out there. Their KPIs are very important to them, and that's fine, but it just didn't sit well with us. And that sort of went into the commission structure as well. We don't want people having to rely on commission to pay their bills.
Yeah, it can drive bad behaviour, can't it? I mean, we all know that Jersey's not a particularly cheap place to live, right? If you've got a mortgage or you've got a rent to pay at the end of the month, with a commission model, it can drive bad behaviour that possibly you're trying to force a candidate down a pathway they don't want to go to just to close a job. So I'm quite proud that we introduced the profit share model. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so the profit share, essentially what it means is that if the business does well, all of our staff do well. Simple as that. That's our consultants do well, and that's how we want to work, because we want to be a team Excel, and
collaborative,
and all of that. And so essentially we pay a higher base salary, but that then relies on us hiring the correct person who buys into the values, who has that work ethic, who has that natural drive to actually just want to do well at their job. Personal pride, professional pride. So that comes back to us hiring the correct person. But essentially, it is all about that person. The
You're
company
not chasing the commission, are you?
No, and the company does well. Our employees do well. Simple as that. It's a really straightforward model. Obviously, we're not going to tell everyone that publicly, but it's a really straightforward model on if they hit a certain number, the profit on that is shared between us, essentially.
And, I mean, there are a few other big changes that we've made. I mean, gosh, when you look back over the 3 years, we've been pretty busy. Last year in particular was a busy one. Talk to me about Firefish.
Well, I suppose how Firefish came along was we had a CRM system and a website that didn't talk to each other. From my point of view, with borderline OCD, someone applying on our website and their name not being put into our CRM system was incredibly frustrating. So John Smith would apply on our website. We would then have to transfer all that data into the CRM. It became hard. It doubled our workload, it doubled orders, and it just didn't make sense. So we were kind of looking at other softwares. I chatted to a couple of people who are in the industry, and this was the one we were almost going with, and then someone in the industry said, we use it, it's brilliant. So we implemented Firefish in October last year.
Bit of a game changer, wasn't it, really?
Absolute game changer. So we've now got a CRM system, a website that is so user-friendly, it's unbelievable. People apply on our website, all their details go into our CRM system. It monitors our KPIs, which we just like to look at for the business. Everything is automated through the system. It's got Google Analytics, all those fun stuff that, spreads the word about Excel. And it's a superb system that we've been using now for coming up to a year, because it was October last year. It's a game changer for us. And at the same time, we did the brand refresh because it made sense to do that. So that's engaged.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll touch upon a brand refresh in a little while and talk about what it is that we did and why we did it, and actually what our new strapline Recruitment Redefined means. But yeah, another change we made was to engage with a new supplier for our marketing and creative support. So big shout out to Tom and the team at Snap, Marcus, and the other guys. They're brilliant. We love working with them, and importantly for us, they're Jersey. So Snap is a team of very talented local people. Tom is an entrepreneurial chap. He built the business himself. And for us being Jersey people and business owners, it's nice to work with like-minded people. In fact, I've actually had some conversations with Tom about what keeps him up at night. So we exchange, we exchange war stories, if you like. But yeah, to engage with a new supplier was another part of the changes that we started to implement, because, like you said, you have the old adage: if it ain't broken, don't fix it. And Excel certainly wasn't broken when we built it. It was a very good business. But like any new business owner, we wanted to fine-tune it and put our own personality and stamp on it. And I think Firefish CRM, changing the way that we possibly use KPIs, the brand refresh, engaging of new suppliers, and doing away with commissions, I think those are pretty significant changes that we've made for the better.
And brightening the office up and all the fun stuff that came across that. And I was in Brighton and with my wife on one of our birthday trip, I think. And I was going around art galleries looking at cool posters and pictures and artwork and everything. And we settled on a couple that came into the office, which was really brightened it up.
You're quite handy at the old interior design, actually. I'm quite impressed. For an accountant, you normally think they're normally quite technical people, but there is a bit of a creative flair there. And I think the other thing that we haven't spoken about is our client event. So we had our inaugural client event this year, which was brilliant, wasn't it? So do you want to explain what we did there?
So how many clients did we have? 15, 20 clients? Can't remember.
The office was pretty full.
Yeah, so obviously, we got Condetti, the chocolatier. He's really interesting guy. You may have seen him around the market and things like that, selling his chocolate. But he owns the cocoa fields in India, and so it's been to Bar. So it was really interesting. And actually, we didn't want to just do your traditional, everyone just get a load of wine in. We actually wanted it to be a bit more interactive, where people could have a bit of fun, learn something, and all have a bit of a chat in a relaxed environment. So Condetti brought the beans in and showed us how to make chocolate, right through from light chocolate to, to your dairy milk, your Cadbury.
The different levels of cocoa, wasn't it?
And it was all of that, and it was kind of some taste testing. Obviously, we did put some wine on as Prosecco and some beers and things like that. But it was a really interesting thing, and everyone made their own bar of chocolates, and it was a really nice event.
It was good. It was good fun, and we work in a very frenetic industry, don't we? I mean, recruitment is fast paced, and I think that just actually having some time out of our clients in a more social context was really good. I mean, it was really good fun, and we had really good feedback, and we've kind of set the bar now, so we need to kind of think what we're going to do next. But it was brilliant, and the fact that our clients all turned up was really good as well. So
So we'll be doing more of them when we as you say, it's a good environment to actually all have a little bit of chat over a glass of wine or a bar of chocolate, and
everyone likes chocolate.
And just understand it. We did it just before Valentine's Day, didn't we, on purpose? So everyone could take it home. I'm not sure how much made it home, but hey ho.
So hopefully that's been quite an interesting insight in terms of Jersey Recruitment, Excel, Jamie and me. So almost year three December, that's when we signed the acquisition documents and all that type of stuff, wasn't it? How are we doing?
I suppose, we're doing well. We're doing well. Well, obviously, doing this, we revisit our strategy anyway, quarterly, and we talk about where we come from, where we're going, all of these sorts of things. But as a loose summary, I suppose year one was all about stability.
I think we called it navigating troubled waters, wasn't it? Well, because Katie had left, who was one of the superstars of Jersey Recruitment. So we just lost all that experience and network and brilliance, frankly.
Replaced her with me, who'd never done recruitment.
You come in as a chartered accountant, had never done recruitment. I mean, don't be too harsh on yourself. I mean, you're not just a numbers man. There's a lot more to it. But I mean, you were new to the industry, and we just lost, a legend of the industry. So we knew it was going to be difficult.
Yeah, so it was all about stability year one, wasn't it? It was all about... we made a decision from day one, the moment we signed it, not to change anything in the business for 12 months. That was a simple rule. Obviously, little tweaks in here. I'm not going to say we didn't change anything, but nothing big. Nothing. It was, I needed to learn the business. We needed to understand the industry. I needed to understand how it's working. We needed to talk about marketing, all those sorts of things that go around it. So it was all about stability, not changing anything for 12 months. We did that. We beat the previous year's revenue just.
I think we just picked it.
Which we were happy with. That was exactly what we wanted to do, what we wanted to achieve. Year two was about a little bit of growth, but actually that was when we were going to put into action any other plans that we wanted to do, whether it was any capital, CRM systems, websites, all of those fun stuff. And we started to do that, and we did achieve a lot in year two, a hell of a lot.
Very tiring.
There was long days, there was doing the day job, plus implementing a whole new CRM system, a new website. Consultants, marketing, hiring people, plus doing the day job. We did all of that. It was just me and you, wasn't it? Well, and Della obviously massively supported Della. And we beat revenue by 15%. Again, so we increased revenue by 15%, plus doing
all those projects,
redecorating the office, refreshing the brand.
I know you've just given a shout out to Della, but we can't underestimate the importance of having Della, the continuity following the purchase of the business. And she's just the age. And the value that Della gives us is just brilliant.
Yeah, and the support, and from my perspective, being able to go to Della and say, "What do you think of this?
Yeah,
what do you think of that?" Massively
involved. A sensible sounding board.
She's our operations manager as well, so she was heavily involved in implementing the CRM system, the website,
data migration, all that.
All of those. We also went through a phase of looking at our clients and our candidates on who we work with, who we're best placed to work with, who we can help the most. And that's when, I think we talked about it earlier, when we had to switch off sort of a third of our jobs in one day, which was a scary day. But that was really important to push us on. And actually, year 2, I can't remember the numbers. I think
15%.
we did 15% more revenue in year 2.
And as we approach Q4 of this year, with a fair wind, I think we're looking at about 34% growth.
Yeah, which was the target, and we're very much on target for that. We hired Stu in year 3.
He's been phenomenal.
As I said, we've talked about hiring the right people, and I would say we've done well with Stu.
I think by the virtue that we promoted Stu and gave him a pay rise before he'd even finished his probation, demonstrates our trust in him and the outstanding work he's done. I think there's also a clue in his job title. So he was a senior recruitment consultant. Now he's a senior recruitment manager. He doesn't have anyone to manage yet, but that's very much part of year 4 plan. We are now in sensible but steady growth mode.
All the foundations are in place. All those foundations are now in place, which is where we wanted to be. What's the old adage? First year you look after the business, second year business looks after itself, third year it starts to look after you. We're probably not quite there yet, but we're not a million miles off. 33% growth in year 3 compared to year 2.
I think it was only when we were actually preparing for this podcast, because we spend so much time. It's almost like the mouse and the mouse wheel. Running. It's very frenetic. It's fast paced. I think it's only when we started to look at the content for today, we actually looked at each other and almost gave each other a little bit of a pat on the back. It was like,
how much we've achieved.
Crikey, we've done a lot in 3 years. We should be quite proud. We haven't always got it right. God, we've made a few mistakes, that's for sure. But actually, we're doing okay. We're not going to rest on our laurels. There's plenty more to be done. Like I said, we're constantly looking to improve. We want to grow. We're looking at different jurisdictions now. And we're certainly looking to recruit and grow the team. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, well, jurisdiction's the next one, really, for us. That's the one I'm sort of excited about. And we will be discussing that next week, I think, officially putting the business plan in place to expand into that jurisdiction. And then the long-term business plan, which we revisit all the time, is we're very much on target for the next consultant to come on board, and they will have to go through 5 interviews again, that poor consultant, but they will meet the team, and it will have to be someone that the whole team is very, very happy with. And so I suppose we've talked about Snap loosely on our relationship with our marketing people. As you're a marketing expert,
wouldn't go that far.
I would. It's probably a good time to talk about what Recruitment Redefined means and how it came about and what it is.
Yeah, Recruitment Redefined. So what does it mean? Where did it come from? So we engaged Snap, and we're having a brainstorming session about what does our schedule of marketing events and activity look like over the coming 12 to 18 months. And the old strapline we had was, it was all about you, which I think worked at the time. But again, being new business owners, we wanted to try and add our own flavour, look at things in a slightly different way. And we were having a brainstorming session with the guys at Snap, and it was actually Tom that came out of it. He's a very creative chap, and he came out of Recruitment Redefined, and we just loved it. It just worked really well. Excel, Recruitment Redefined. And so that's where it was born, from a brainstorming session of our creative bods at Snap. So what does it mean? It means so many different things. It encompasses the principles of how we deal with our candidates. It encompasses the way we deal with our clients, the way we deal with each other internally as a team. It kind of embodies all those different values in the way that we interact with our key stakeholders. It doesn't mean one thing. It kind of means lots of different things, which is, this is the way that we do business. You could look at it from, we don't do commissions, profit share. We have a very flexible hybrid working philosophy. Our colleagues are an extension of our family in a way. They're friends. And the way that we treat our candidates and clients, hopefully in a very tailored, structured, and enthusiastic way. So I think that kind of embodies what Recruitment Redefined means. We're constantly challenging ourselves to come up with a definition, but it's very difficult because it means so many different things. It's effectively the way that we behave with our key stakeholders.
It's kind of intangible, isn't it? It's there isn't one thing, but it's recruitment, which is what we do, but it's redefined in the fact that there's no KPIs, no commission. Our staff work where they need to be, when they need to be, and they're autonomous. It's a very adult environment on how we deal with our staff. It's no one's micromanaged. It's all of that, all encompassing, really, isn't it? And it's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, trust is 100% guaranteed with our staff. You know, we 100% trust our staff to be accountable, to be responsible, and to be professional, and to behave the way that we want them to behave, and the way that we behave ourselves. We've mentioned about the fact we have a hybrid working model. We kind of had to because, as we know, I live just outside Liverpool these days, so I work remotely 75% of the year. So it would have been slightly unfair if we didn't afford that flexibility to our team, and they love it. They embrace it. We have a great office in town, brilliant location. We've mentioned that we've refurbished the place to make it a lot more kind of inviting and friendly. So that's a resource the team can use. But equally, if they have things going on at home, or they just prefer to crack on with reports or whatever they need to do, they are always afforded that 100% flexibility. And because we trust our teams, we know that they won't be taking the mickey effectively.
That comes back to us hiring the right person, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
And so really we take that responsibility on ourselves. And if someone is taking the mickey, and if someone is not autonomous, or, you know, that's not to say the support's not there. We support every member of staff or whatever they need. We are available at all hours of the day. But then that's up to us to hire the right people that fit into the culture of what Excel's about.
Yeah, we celebrate success together. You know, we win and lose together as a team. You know, we've introduced a few other nice perks to kind of help develop the culture of the business. So now everyone has their birthday off each year. We do quarterly staff events. Normally following the quarterly board meetings, we tend to go out somewhere nice for a nice meal just to say thank you.
We shut the office, don't we?
We shut the office. Just to say thank you for the hard work, because the teams do work hard. The team works really, really hard, and so it's nice to be able to give something back to them. We close the office at Christmas. You or I will keep a casual eye on emails in case that very rare, urgent or important email comes in, but generally it's switch off for Christmas. So by giving our staff those kind of benefits and those thank yous, it comes back in terms of their commitment to us and their loyalty, and it works really, really well. You know, I think a really good example of the culture of our team is, unfortunately, my father passed away a few years ago. We made a decision to close the business for the day, and everyone turned up to the funeral and the wake to support me, which was brilliant, you know, and I really, really appreciated it. But I think that reflects how tight-knit we are as a team. So I'm really proud of that. I think as a business owner, getting that culture right is probably one of the most satisfying things, actually. I don't think I've actually mentioned that enough, is that I get a lot of self-satisfaction from seeing a really happy and productive team.
Yeah, and from my point of view, and we work so closely, we would know if anyone was unhappy. But I would like to say we operate with integrity, and, you know, it always comes back to we treat people as adults. And if we're not hiring the correct people, then they won't buy into that culture. But then I suppose that comes back to the interview process as well, doesn't it? Everyone that is employed by us is interviewed by everyone.
Yes.
It's kind of, I mean, Stu here is fantastic. He joined us in January. He was shocked that he had 5 interviews to get the role. But it was really, really important that we introduced that everyone in the business interviews any new member of staff. Because we are such a tight-knit team, we do have such an embedded culture in the company that actually it's, if you're not willing to go through that process, then you might not be right for us.
Be slightly ironic as well, wouldn't it, as a self-described recruitment experts, if we didn't actually get the recruitment right for our own business. I mean, I think Recruitment Redefined also speaks to this kind of concept around the candidate journey. Do you want to kind of explain that? So it's not so much a one-off transactional placement sale. We want to kind of accompany that candidate through their journey, effectively.
Throughout their career, yeah. I mean, as we said before, we do deal with trainees that will be the directors in the industry 10, 15 years down the line. And, we really want to be on that journey with them. We get to know our candidates. We build relationships. I've had 2 or 3 candidates this week that are returning candidates.
And that's really satisfying, isn't it? When they come back to us in 3 or 4 years' time after it's time to make a change. And also the fact they refer their friends and family as well. So typically once they've had the Excel experience, we'd like to think that, we can partner with them thereafter.
Oh, it's amazing. I've got a candidate who replaced a few months ago, and I'm now dealing with 4 of her friends who I've placed 1 and 3 are in the process now. So, just from that, it really tells a lot about our business, and hopefully how I dealt with that original candidate, that she's referred 4 of her friends who are now in the process, and those are the most satisfying ones,
Yeah, and I think if we're going to stay true to Recruitment Redefined, we're constantly challenging ourselves, constantly looking at ways that we can do things better. We're quite critical of each other in a constructive way. We've already spoken about some of the major milestones that we've done over the last few years, but there's going to be many more to come, and we'll touch upon that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been working recruitment now for circa 7 years. You've been on board for almost 3. Over the last kind of 18 months, what are the kind of trends that we see that are quite prevalent, starting with the impacts of the pandemic and the implications in terms of working from home, which, let's be honest, Jersey was pretty slow off the curve, right? In the UK, working from home or hybrid working was very much a thing that's existed for a long time. But in Jersey, it hadn't ever really taken off, and then bang, COVID came and things were forcibly changed.
Yeah, so I suppose you don't want to harp back to the pandemic all the time, but it did change the way everyone worked. I was, at that point, a hiring manager. I was, trying to manage a team of a number of individuals, and how do we get on laptops? How do we do all of this? And, and it did change everything. I think, certain companies ran out of laptops. Companies were ordering 500 laptops at a time. But anyway, working from home and flexible working, they're 2 very different things. Working from home is hybrid working, flexible working. I think it's taken the industry a long time to understand what these 2 things are. I still think people are getting to grips with it. But companies are understanding what they want now. Do they offer hybrid working? Don't they offer the hybrid working? It works for some companies. It doesn't work for some companies. Some companies have given complete flexibility where you book a desk, and some all in the office. So these are the trends. What we're seeing from candidates, and over the last 3 years, I suppose the first year was a lot of candidates saying, I won't go anywhere unless they offer hybrid working, i.e. 1 or 2 days working from home a week. We're now seeing candidates now saying, I prefer to be in the office. Yeah. I think that is a big trend, a lot of candidates are saying now.
And I think it depends on the profile of the individual as well, right? So, I'm lucky enough to have a bespoke office at home. So it's effectively, when I walk into that room, it's configured for work. Of the younger generation, if you're having to share a dining room table, in your lounge with your partner, both hunched over a laptop, it's not really a very good environment, for productivity. It's probably not very good ergonomically for your posture and all the rest of it. Versus someone who might be more lucky to have proper designated space with all the things you would expect to be able to do your job. I think also it's an age thing to some degree. I think the younger generation work is actually a social outlook as well. A lot of their colleagues are going to be their mates and their friends that they hang out with at the weekends and stuff. Whereas when you get to kind of the more mature age groups like us and above, you might have family, school runs to manage, that type of stuff. So that flexibility is a nice thing. I mean, how many people pre-COVID used to do the school run? And once people got into the habit of doing that, that's a very precious thing that you don't want to kind of give up.
No, definitely. And that's the difference between flexible working and hybrid working. Hybrid working offers you or affords you the opportunity to work at home a certain number of days per week, or full-time in some instances. And that flexible working is, do you do 25 hours? Do you do 35 hours? But you manage your time around the school run.
Compressing the hours into 4 days, so you have Friday off.
Yeah, all of those. I'm dealing with a candidate at the moment who does 5.5 hours in the office, picks their son up and logs on and does an hour and a half in the evenings. Now that is flexible working, and companies are having to embrace that. And I don't want to embrace that, because the reality is that person would probably only have done 5.5 hours previously. But now there's the opposite of that flexibility. They can actually do a full-time job. You know, it's beneficial to the company, it's beneficial to the employee, all those sorts of things. When we talk about trends in the market, I suppose we've got to look at LinkedIn.
Of course, yeah. I mean, LinkedIn being the equivalent of Facebook, but for the working community. I mean, LinkedIn there's so many angles to LinkedIn, isn't there? I mean, do you want to kind of explain?
There's pros and cons. Obviously, from our business, it's an enabler that we can network and connect with thousands of people very, very quickly, as can companies in the industry. For candidates, it is a good thing. They can see what opportunities are out there. Personally, I was open to work on LinkedIn, and I never found the right role for myself. Not that I was actively looking. But what you find with LinkedIn is there isn't probably enough detail about roles, salaries, company culture, packages, all of those things. And granted, companies can't provide all those details on a LinkedIn advert. So what you get is you get candidates applying for the wrong type of role.
And I think that's where we can add value, isn't it? Because
that's where we come in, isn't it?
If you see a role, you're not going to get an idea of what the salary is likely to be able to go to. Whether it aligns with what your target expectations are. You won't know the culture of the organisation. You won't know whether they provide various benefits and various cultural things that you just can't get from an advert. It might be that we actually happen to know the hiring manager, you know, and we might know the type of personality that person would work well with and who wouldn't work well with. So LinkedIn is an enabler for our business. It's also a competitor. It's kind of both.
You know, I've spoken to a number of candidates who have applied for roles on LinkedIn that they wouldn't have understood weren't correct for them, because the job description is generic or it doesn't give that much detail. They've applied for it, and maybe they've been a senior manager and this role sounded glamorous, but it was looking for a senior accountant, so it's miles away from where they are. They've also looked at things. I mean, this is where we had the value to our candidates and our clients, is that we can really identify the correct candidate for the correct role. We often know the salary bandings and the packages that go along with this. They have to remain confidential with us, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But I won't show John Smith if it's completely not a right fit, but John Smith might not understand.
If John Smith's looking for £100,000 and we know the role's only paying 20, then...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also from the candidate's perspective, and it's a thing that lots and lots of people find uncomfortable, is negotiating for themselves. Negotiating for someone else is far easier than it is for yourself. Let's face it, when that person goes in and asks their manager for a pay rise, I'm sure they'd feel much more comfortable asking for a pay rise for their colleague or their staff than they would themselves. Just, it's a natural thing.
I would, you know.
I am myself. But, you know, we can have those, we can provide that conduit in those negotiations that make it much easier. We take a lot of the administration away from...
We remove the awkwardness, don't we, of those potentially awkward conversations.
Yeah.
I think another trend that we see, which is, it's not going to come as a huge surprise to anyone, is that Jersey's finance sector is booming, right? I mean, Jersey finance is definitely open for business, and quite simply, the number of vacancies outstrips the number of qualified people to fill those vacancies, which means that in the segments that we work in, it's very much an employee-led sector industry, as opposed to being an employer-led. And that creates a bit of a conundrum for the island, because Jersey is a finite island. It's 9 by 5 square miles, something like that. Population of about 120,000, something like that, I think.
Housing licenses, limited, and
all that kind of stuff. So you have this problem that you have an industry that's outgrowing the local supply of labour, which then means we have to import labour, qualified labour, to fill those jobs, which is not always easy, because quite rightly, Population Control Office want to maintain Jersey as a beautiful island and destination to live. So there's this constant pressure with not opening the floodgates to let people come in to fill those vacancies to maintain the integrity and beauty of the island, versus an insatiably hungry finance industry which is growing and has multiple vacancies.
And that comes back to the licensing, and when these candidates do relocate to Jersey, the cost of living here as well is kind of an eye-opener. And this is something that I think we're very good at, is that we talk to our candidates that are relocating to Jersey, and we're very, very upfront about the cost of living here, set licensing requirements. Candidates, I've given them contacts at all different schools to go and check out if they're 11-year-old and their 8-year-old, because I've got 2 children at school, boy and a girl. So we offer that extra value where it's an interesting market. It's an interesting market, and
For sure.
I think I was in with a client yesterday talking about what their needs were, and I can almost guarantee at every client meeting, senior trust officer, senior fund administrator, mentioned in every single one of my conversations with clients. It's not new. This isn't breaking news from Jamie or anything like that, but it's that senior trust admin, senior fund admin, and you would say that 20 to 25-year-old is probably the most challenging part of the industry, finding good quality 20 to 25-year-olds.
And do you think I've yet to prove this, but I've certainly seen a trend that there are people leaving the island, particularly some of the younger people, possibly a flight of talented human capital, based upon the cost of living, right? So, I don't know what the average 2-bedroom property or 1-bedroom flat in Jersey currently is, but typically it's a lot of money, and unless you've got support from the bank of mum and dad or something similar, it's a pretty intimidating task, to possibly have to spend £400,000 or £500,000 on a property with a mortgage to retirement age. So there is a challenge there as well, that some of the talented younger people are either going to university and not coming back, or they're realising that actually their long-term future in Jersey may not be viable just because of the cost. And that's a challenge for the island as well.
Yeah, and this isn't, it's not breaking news from us. Something we are liaising with our competitors, other recruitment agencies, in roundtables with Jersey Finance, and those conversations are happening. There isn't one solution.
There's no silver bullet, is there? But it's
But it needs to be, and also not just that, the social life in Jersey. We speak to lots of youngsters who live here and work in the finance industry, might fly to Liverpool or Manchester or London once a month, and that's their social. There doesn't seem to be a massive social scene compared to when we were that age.
Back in the 90s.
Back in the day. So, so there's lots of trends in the market that we see. Okay, so we've covered frustrations with the business, some frustrations. We covered some of the good stuff. What other frustrations do you have in the day-to-day?
Oh, well, it's not going to be exclusive to Excel Recruitment, but I think these are kind of common frustrations that both ourselves and our peers and our competitors feel. I guess you can look at it almost from two sides. You can look at it from the kind of the frustration from the candidate perspective, and then also there's some frustrations perhaps that we sometimes get with our clients. I think candidates that aren't necessarily honest. So, when asking a candidate, have they made an application to company X, Y, or Z, and they say, no, I haven't, we go to the effort of putting together what hopefully is an excellent CV, drawing out all their strengths and really kind of tailoring the CV to make sure that it's the best possible document for them, because it is their marketing brochure effectively. A CV is your marketing brochure. To then put the application in, which sometimes means navigating relatively cumbersome portals and that type of stuff, and just to get an automated response that pings back that says, we've already received this application. Or if it's not an automated response from a portal, it might be kind of a frustrated email from one of our clients saying, Ben, I've already got Johnny's CV or whatever. And that's frustrating because it's taken us a lot of time to do that. It makes us look a bit silly, but also it doesn't look great for the candidate. It kind of paints a picture of slightly chaotic management of their recruitment process. If you're getting an application for the same individual going in for the same job, doesn't create a very good picture for that person. It shows
always just trying to pull a fast one, aren't they?
They are, and it's counterproductive because it makes them look like they're not very organised, and it's wasted a lot of our time. So I think that's one of the frustrations we have. Candidates that manage to find a job and don't bother to tell us. So we're still targeting them with new jobs, and they just go silent. And then eventually we'll just get a one-line email that says, "Thanks for your help, but I found a job." That can be quite frustrating.
Well, we've had a few as well, haven't we, that have actually accepted a job with us. And then when the contracts are issued, they just go silent. And we try and call them. And firstly, it doesn't make them look very good anyway. Lacks integrity, I suppose, from their point of view. We're wasting time. And the client's not happy at all because they feel like they've secured this person, they can close the role down, and that person just disappears.
I think you've had a couple of examples recently where you suspect that you're being used to try and get some market data, possibly for the individual to try and negotiate a better deal at work. Do you want to expand upon that?
Well, I've got better at spotting it. You can see the telltale symptom signs, of these people that. Well, what would a senior fund accountant get in this current market, or something like that, and it instantly raises a red flag and things like that. But we do get that. Unfortunately, I think all recruiters will get that. Maybe we've done it ourselves in the past, but not to that extent. But people who have gone through the process in order to get a counteroffer. So one thing we've really tried to do is the counteroffer. We talk about the counteroffer up front. Counteroffer is prevalent in this market. It has been for a number of years. People trying to get jobs for counteroffers. It actually, I talk to candidates up front about the counteroffer and say to them, what will happen when you get a counteroffer, because any good candidate will normally get a counteroffer if they're good. And as we discussed before, I would say 80% of the candidates I meet are not about money. So really it's about their manager, the culture, all of those things we've discussed before. And when that counteroffer comes, we actually, because we've built a good relationship, we can go back to our candidate and say, what about your manager's still your manager, or the culture's still the culture, or your work-life balance is still poor, all those sorts of things. So I'm getting better. As I say, I'm an accountant coming into recruitment, so learning about recruitment and learning about the nuances of recruitment and all of those sorts of stuff. We do have client frustrations.
Yeah, we do. And I guess the two main ones for me, and in defence of our clients, I think they've got a lot better at this, is providing some sort of meaningful feedback if a candidate's been unsuccessful post-interview stage. So if you're an individual, you've got yourself psyched up to go for a job interview, you do your interview, and then for whatever reason you've been unsuccessful. That's life. Only one person will get the job, and there can be multiple people going for it. So you have to recognise, the probability of being successful, but to try and provide something that's meaningful, so that person can take that away, absorb that information, and hopefully it means that they'll perform better next time. That leaves the candidate with a nice feeling. It's not nice to be rejected, but at least you've got some meaningful feedback. But to be fair, I would say 80% of our clients have got a lot better at doing that. And it's really appreciated because it makes our life a lot easier. Because we are the people that break the bad news. We're the guys that break the good news, and we're the people that also break the bad news. And so by breaking the bad news, but with something that's helpful and useful for that individual to absorb and take away, makes our life easier, and I think it leaves a better taste of the candidate, and also portrays the clients in a much more positive light as well.
There's nothing worse than that automated, unfortunately you've been unsuccessful in as well.
Yeah, or we found people who fit the role
all of those
more appropriately, just generic stuff.
It's generic, but it's obviously a template email that comes out of the portal. That we're all about relationships, aren't we? And picking up the phone, even just a one-liner to say the other candidate had a slightly better experience in financial control or anything like that, just something that...
They didn't feel they had enough expertise in regards to IFRS or something like that, which is just really helpful. I think another possible client frustration is this kind of concept of a black hole. So sometimes it feels like putting a an application into this huge void, and you just never hear anything back from it. And of course, we're being chased by the candidate. Have you got an update? Can you let me know if there's any interest in my application? And sometimes it can be quite frustrating because it's not clear. But again, clients have got a lot better. Some in particular have become very, very good at getting back to us very, very quickly. And again, it's just about managing the expectations of the candidate. We've all been candidates before, and there's nothing worse than when you go through the process and then you just don't hear anything from your recruiter again once you've made an application. So that kind of black hole kind of analogy is a frustration, along with not very helpful feedback. Those are probably the two main groups.
At any stage of the process as well. So this could be the first interview process, or they're not going to interview, or even at the offer stage. We've had candidates who have got to offer stage and the applications got lost, and that client was going to make an offer, and it's 2 weeks down the line, and it's now put a bad taste in the candidate's mouth, and we have to smooth that over, which is fine, which we can do, but that is where our relationships with our clients come in and our candidates come in, and we want to work with our clients, simple as that. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. The candidate wants a role, the client wants the role filled, and we want to help them facilitate that process.
Yeah.
So if we all work together, it makes it so much easier. We know a lot of HR. One of my good friends is head of HR, and we do discuss these sorts of things, and she gets it. And it's just about working together to make it the best possible process, because even if that person's rejected, if they're rejected with good feedback in a timely manner, it doesn't detract from the company's name.
Yeah.
And because down the line, you don't know who that person's going to be. They could be a trainee administrator today and a director in 10 years' time.
Exactly. I mean, the trainee of today can be the hero of the future. But I think it's important to stress that this is also constructive criticism. We're not foolish not to recognise that some of our clients are managing possibly hundreds of applications, over a month, which I think is why some of them are now trying to automate this process of portals and automated alerts and that type of stuff. So it's not easy, so when we're kind of providing that kind of feedback, it's meant to be from a constructive point of view, but also being cognizant that actually they've got a big job in their hands as well. So it's not meant to be.
Oh, massive respect to HR teams. I mean, I was the hiring manager up until 3 years ago that was going into that HR person and saying, I need an accountant, I need one now. And they're like, Jamie, there just isn't what, and I've been on that side. So I get they're getting it from both sides, directors, board level, managers, from us, from direct applications, all of that. They've got a huge job to do. So we do appreciate that.
They do.
But actually, these are just the things we see in the market that good companies do.
I think flipping back to the candidate, I think another challenge something that I like less is when we have to tell someone we can't help them. Right at the beginning, just looking at the CV and just recognising the profile of the individual. It's not that they're a bad person or a bad individual, it's just they don't align with the types of roles that we work with. Mm-hmm. I think also the Jersey element. I've had multiple examples of people that have come over in a holiday, fallen in love with the island, and they go, right, let's see if we can find a job. And you have to walk them through the housing qualification process, and just to see their shoulders slump when they realise that this kind of dream is actually not going to happen. So being the bearer of bad news both then, but also telling candidates when they've been unsuccessful, we have to give a lot of bad news. And I think both of us I think everybody likes to give good news. That's the best bit of the job. When you pick up the phone, you say, you got the job, that's the buzz, ring the bell, the whole team are high-fiving, that's all the good stuff. But the bad stuff is when you've got to give that bad news. And I think, telling candidates that we can't help them is a tough gig. And we've actually done quite a lot of work in how we market our business to make it very clear these are the segments that we work in. And so hopefully anyone, if they've done their due diligence on our website, should be able to tell whether we are a natural fit for them to help them in their career journey.
Well, what we do better is we're very, very, very honest with all candidates up front, when we can help them, when we can't help them. And I would say 80-90% of people appreciate that honesty. We're nice about it. We want to help everyone. I'd love to give every person in this island a job. that's what we do. But we've also got to be realistic that we can't help everyone. And that's one thing we've got far better at over the last 3 years, is upfront saying we just don't think we can place you as a fund accountant term time.
Yeah.
I just don't think I can do that. You never worked in fund accounts, and there's lots of fund accountants that will be working full time, and that's just an example of someone we can't help, or the doctor that comes to us, for instance, that we just help doctors.
An engineer, or it could be very, very intelligent, highly qualified people, but we just don't work in those sectors.
Yeah.
I think another frustration that we get, probably on less occasion, and it tends to be of the younger segment of the population, is an appreciation of actually what a recruitment consultant does. We are not an extension of Social Security. We're not back to work. If we don't find you a job, we don't get paid. And so sometimes there's a slight naivety around our work, and it sometimes feels slightly patronising. We'd like to think we're experts in our field, but we're not just doing this out of charity. This is how we pay our salaries, and it's how we pay our staff. It's, I only see that in kind of rare occasions, and it tends to be a slightly younger generation who perhaps a bit naive and don't fully understand how the process works.
But the younger generation that come to us, and they're very clear about, they want to be guided, they've never been in the funds industry before, those are the people we love working with. The one who comes in and says, we really don't know what funds is, really don't know what trust is, really don't know what corporate is. And it's explaining the different nuances between different industries, and then actually saying, this area could be much better for you than this area, and guiding them and explaining to them, and that's such a pleasure to deal with people like that.
You've done an enormous amount of work over the last 18 months working with schools, haven't you?
Yeah, we've been into a couple of schools. We do, well, for the last 3 years now, we've had the Victoria College A-level students down. I'm sure other businesses do this as well, but it's something that we really enjoy, giving up our time. We spend a good couple of days with the Vic boys, giving them that real life, coming into a recruitment agent, filling in the application form, providing us with a CV, trying to sell themselves to us, and then actually guiding them through where they could be better. And I always make sure I give really constructive feedback on where they could do better, but what they did excellently. We've also been into Boldia as well, chatting to the sixth formers there who weren't sure about going to university, or actually didn't want to go to university. Lots of them said, I want to be accountants. Obviously that's my field, so I know how to do it. And it's not just a case of, I want to be an accountant, so I'm going to be an accountant. There is a commitment to this, and explaining what that commitment is, the exams you have to do, the experience you have to have, and it's really enjoyable going in and talking to them, and we want to do more of that this year.
Absolutely. I mean, both being local to Jersey, we're proud Jersey beans, aren't we? So actually to be able to help, the kind of the stars of the future, it's actually very rewarding, isn't it? It's fun, and you've done a great job with the kind of the interview practice and stuff that you've done with the sixth form students. I guess the last challenge stroke frustration that I want to call out, it's potentially a little bit controversial, but I think it's important, is this whole kind of issue around possible ageism. We can't prove it, of course, and perhaps we're wrong, but we do have candidates who are of a more mature age, who've got stacks of experience and skills, and sometimes it can be really hard to find them a job. And I find myself scratching my head thinking, this person is infinitely more wise and intelligent than I am. They're not looking for a crazy salary. They've possibly paid their mortgage, the kids have left home, so they don't have that financial burden anymore, but they still want to work. They're still able to work. They don't possibly want to eat into their pension and their capital. They still want to be earning an income. And it can sometimes be really, really difficult to help them.
I've had a few, haven't I? And well, we both had a few, but one springs to mind. He's probably one of the nicest blokes I've ever met. Really good guy, qualified up to the eyeballs, but just the wrong side of 60.
Yeah.
Just the wrong side of 60. And I just could not get him anywhere. And And the one thing that I come back to on ageism is actually, I think we talk about the people, the lifers, the 10-year employees, the 15, 20-year employees. I don't think that happens so much anymore.
No.
The average from what I see from people's careers is 3 to 5 years. So if you're looking at a 61-year-old for the next 5, 6 years, it's actually probably longer than if you employed the 25-year-old. So I think this is where the market can be a bit short-sighted on the 60-plus people.
Right.
And that's where I think people need to open their eyes, because they come to us and say, we're really frustrated, we can't employ people, but then they're missing out on a whole segment in the market where they could employ these people. They would be stable, they wouldn't be calling in sick, they're self-sufficient, they're autonomous, they can think for themselves, they've got life experience. And I think this is where the market needs to start looking a bit more at that sort of level of people.
100%, absolutely.
Yeah, exciting times.
It is exciting times, and it's a privilege to share the journey with you, buddy.
And you, mate.